We're here now at this time because of you. This is your fault.
All right, folks, we have Derek for 30 minutes. And if I had a quarter for every time he told me that, I would have a lot of quarters. This is the Current Gen Podcast, episode 63. I'm Tim. That's Dan.
Terrible joke.
Here, I'll do a stopwatch for you, too.
We
all right, you big baby.
are dedicated to this show. And then there's Derek, who we have to drag kicking and screaming into most recording sessions. But Derek's here, too. Good to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. God bless you.
Are you talking about the pillow that you're laying on? Or?
Oh my gosh.
Well, the dirty
well,
behind me, yeah.
Listen, it's been a busy week of gaming for most folks who have decided to jump into Resident Evil, so we will talk about that. We'll do like a spoiler-ish discussion since we've all finished the game at this point, and just to give our takes on that. I mean, we don't have to go full into spoilers, but we can talk about at least some of those moments because it is really interesting.
I'm going.
And
deep.
Then, okay, you can.
Deep.
Well, all right.
I'm
Okay,
going
and then
deep.
if you guys have tried the Mass Effect Legendary Collection, we can talk about that. And then I've got a couple TV shows I've been watching. Wanted to talk about those too. And then we'll just take a glance through some headlines, see if there's anything of note. But before we do any of that stuff, I got to ask you guys, what's your drink of choice for, let's just say it's evening. You've already had dinner, and now you've got a couple hours that you're going to be chilling and have something to drink. What's your drink of choice? Are you just ice water? Do you like soda? Do you want a beer? What's your drink? Strawberry. What is that?
Clear American.
Strawberry sparkling water.
I don't think I've ever seen. That must be a down south thing. That must be a down south brand.
Is that kind of like? Is it like the LaCroix stuff?
It is, but it's actually sweet.
Okay.
They don't use sugar. They use some type of 0 calories a sweetener, but it tastes really good. It's basically a soda.
Right. It's like a Coke Zero.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah. What about you, Dan? What's your drink of choice?
Well, I like to live the glamorous life, Tim. So I'm all about that Cristal. Just fucking bottles of Cristal. I'm up in the club, like.
You're definitely not.
You're an idiot.
So when I do drink soda, I like black cherry colas. They're quite delicious. I'm a big fan of black cherry colas.
Coke or Pepsi?
I mean, I guess Pepsi, but I mean, I'm not like that kind of colas. I'm not into.
Oh, okay.
Like so IBC, the brand IBC, they got black cherry cola, which, or black cherry soda. It's not cola, sorry. And that's quite delicious. But I like those flavored sodas, like this. Was it Stewart's? I think is the brand, or you usually find them in the kind of in the soda aisle, but there's like different flavors and there's other companies too. But
the one that I would recommend.
The only one that drinks alcohol is Tim, the alcohol.
It's true.
Yes.
Like tonight I'm having a Blue Moon, but other times if it's gonna be a beer, I also like Sam Adams Boston Lager. I went through an IPA phase, but then it was just not quite my thing. I like things that are a little bit lighter.
So I've certainly busted like John's and Jesse's balls about alcohol and so on and so forth. I mean, to each their own, but I just legitimately don't get it. I've had alcohol before, especially beer. I think beer is just gross and none of it tastes good. It tastes like soggy bread to me. Like if you just dipped bread in water and like ate it, that's what beer tastes like to me.
I mean, now that I date a lot, I drink more because you got to survive dates.
To survive.
But like, I just like fruity drinks. Like I like girly drinks. So,
yeah, I think there's
shots.
The alcohol inclusion in drinks is just a good way to, I don't know, if you need to, and sometimes I need to decompress, relax a little bit. That's why it's once or twice a week, have a beer to end the day. It's not that often. Like my wife Katie got me a 24-pack of Blue Moon it was on sale at Sam's Club. So it's in the bottom shelf of our garage fridge, and that was several weeks ago, and I'm just now halfway through them.
There you go.
So they're clearly alcoholic.
Definitely.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly.
If I really had a problem, I would have gone through that bad boy in a weekend. You know what I mean? But
or a day.
Or a day. I was looking up to see if one of my favorite sodas, since you were talking about IBC, I also really like Jones cane sugar soda.
Yes, those? I think those are this Jones, and then I swear there's one that starts with the T. It's like Stewart's or.
Okay.
Can't remember.
I feel like they started with root beer, maybe branched out from there. Stewart's.
Soda.
But yeah, Jones cane sugar soda, highly recommend. Their cream soda is amazing, but they also make other good stuff. Like they have good orange and a few others. But
yeah, I was thinking Stewart, but the actual brand that I was thinking of was the one that you just said.
Yeah, Jones
Yeah.
cane sugar, and they do labels that include like their customer's picture, so you can submit your picture and they might pick it for a label on one of their bottles, kind of thing. So it could be like family picture, or Goofy, or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right, well there you go. There's our drinks of choice. And when it comes down to it, I also do like some good sweet tea. I know some people like if you're having iced tea, they don't like it sweetened, like unsweetened sweet tea or unsweetened tea.
No,
not my thing.
So. Well, when you say sweet tea, I'm thinking like tea that's sweetened, like flavored tea, like peach or raspberry.
But I'm also talking about just homemade iced tea, and you add sugar to it while you make it instead of just. I'm assuming down there in the South, Derek, you've had some good sweet tea. Maybe you don't like tea though.
No, I like tea. I don't drink it because I don't drink anything with calories, but unless like I'm fasting. But
yeah,
I actually went to Outback with my daughter this weekend, and I got Coke Zero, and she's doing a diet, so she got unsweet tea, and the only thing she added was lemons. And I was thirsty when we left, and she got it to go, and I didn't get me a drink to go. And I said, "Can I just have a quick sip?" She's like, "Yeah." And I took a little sip. I was like, "Hey, this is pretty good. Like, this is good." She's like, "It is." I'm like, "Well, I might start doing that. I might do unsweet tea with just lemons."
Well, green tea is good for metabolism. So, I mean, green tea has like a not as great flavor as like black tea, but it's good for your metabolism.
There you go. There's this week in current drinks. John. That's this section of this show is current drinks. All right. Well, I was just curious because I just popped open mine, so I thought I'd find out if you guys are having anything. All right.
Nope, not alcoholic. Sorry, buddy.
No alcoholics. Actually, let's do the Resident Evil Village talk at the end in case anyone wants to skip being spoiled on anything. That way we can just talk freely. Let's talk a little bit about a few other things that you might be playing or watching. I'll kick it off with some stuff that I'm watching real quick. I wanted to talk about Ted Lasso. Have you guys watched this show?
No. I've seen snippets of it, but I mean, obviously that's what you have as your background.
Yeah. So it's Jason Sudeikis is the main actor he's from SNL, and you've seen him probably in other movies too. Like there was the Millers, I think, and
yep. Or We Are the Millers, I think.
Was he in Horrible Bosses too? Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's really funny. Anyway, his character Ted Lasso came up. Someone told me it was from an SNL sketch, which is possible. I just didn't see it. What I did see though was it was like 8 years ago or something. They did a bunch of ads for Premier League coming to NBC, and he was this American football coach coaching in the Premier League. And there were these like commercial sketches they did, and they were quite funny. They were like 4 or 5 minutes long, and there was NBC's way of announcing and saying, "Here comes the Premier League to US TV," and he was the American coach that was supposed to coach this European football team, the soccer team. So it was all kind of done tongue in cheek, very silly, very funny, but the concept was so good and his character was so likable just in those little shorts that they made. They went ahead and made a TV show on Apple TV. So a couple friends from work, we're all watching it at the same time and talking about it. In our weekly staff meetings, we were opening it up with, "What do you guys think of Ted Lasso this week?" Because there's a second season coming out in July as well.
Okay.
So
it's fairly new.
It is. I think Ted Lasso season 1 just came out last year, maybe summer, might have been the fall. Super funny, like really clever. I highly recommend it if you like really clever, kind of quick-witted writing. He's this very lovable. He's not dumb, but he is kind of naive, very naively hopeful and optimistic. And he's going to this very pessimistic environment with this.
Sure.
With this football club. There's all kinds of drama going on behind the scenes, and the players and the owner and the press, they're all just kind of like, "What is wrong with you?" And he's like, "We're gonna get it done, guys. It's gonna be all right." Like he's very optimistic. I recommend it. He's very lovable, and I am finding it to be quite funny.
We need that kind of optimism in this world, Tim.
We do.
We just need it. We need it.
I have that optimism.
Yes, so I did
bring it to the show, man. What do you?
I did find out if you have purchased an Apple product, then within 3 months of purchasing it, if you bought it in the last year or two, within 3 months of purchasing it, you can get Apple TV for a year for free. So if you're planning on getting a new iPhone or a MacBook or something like that, you can get it for free. Otherwise, it's just $5 a month if you want to give this show a try. And the whole first season's out, so you could just give it a whirl. But anyway, I recommend it. It's very, very good. What about you guys? Anything you're watching and playing outside of Resident Evil?
I'm playing Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
And
I'm 7 hours into the original Mass Effect, which that's the one that had the most changes, according to like a lot of the videos I've watched. I wouldn't. All right, here's my opinion on this. For anybody who's played the games, and they'll know the original Mass Effect got hated on a lot because it is definitely, and I do believe it was designed this way intentionally. There are people that don't. They just think BioWare didn't know how to make a shooter. They made this game after they made Coder, and Mass Effect played like Knights of the Old Republic. And the only difference is that it had shooting mechanics. But the shooting mechanics were not good because, like I said, it was more of a stats rolling of the dice behind the scene RPG. Like you could be right in front of the guy and shoot him in the head, and it doesn't mean he'll die. It wasn't a shooter. Well, anyways, the reason I bring that up is because after that, Mass Effect 2 and 3, because they were criticized for the first one, because people didn't like they wanted to be able to shoot the gun and it shoot the way it was supposed to. They changed it, and they made the shooting mechanics better, and RPG's still there, but I think it kind of, in a way, lessens as far as, like, upgrading your characters and their powers and really needing to rely. Like, I can play every Mass Effect game and not use my powers. I could just shoot the gun, except the first one. Now, the reason, again, I'm bringing this up is they've updated this first one, and they've made the shooting more accurate and a little bit better, and I don't know if it's for the good, and here's why I say this. Is it easier to play and shoot? Yes. But it's still like bad shooting, so it just feels like a generic shooter. Like it doesn't feel like an RPG. It just feels like a bad shooting game now.
Yeah.
I still like it. It's still one of my favorite Mass Effects because it has I won't say it. It has the best story because it starts the franchise.
Yeah.
It's the one that has the most mystery to it. Like, you don't know what the Reapers are. You don't know anything. Now that we've played the trilogy, yeah, we do. So when I go back and play it, I'm like, I can skip most of the cutscenes and stuff because I'm like, all right, I know what y'all are talking about. But back when I was originally playing it, actually the first two times, not the first time, the first two times, I was still trying to piece together what the heck they're talking about. And the scope was smaller in the first one. You didn't really realize what the Reapers were going to be and how it was going to play out in the second and third one. So, overall, I'm enjoying it. The graphics, a little bit better. I mean, the biggest change, honestly, is the resolution. That's the biggest change. It's not really. They have upgraded, the lighting,
the textures and stuff, right? I know this. Yeah.
But to me, it's not like you would load this game up and be like, this looks like a current gen game.
It's not Demon Souls original compared to
it just feels like a 360 game that got, because I have, y'all know I play on PC, so I would buy games like Kingdoms of Amalur and all that stuff, and I would play it on PC when the only thing that it was released at the time was just the Xbox 360. Obviously, they've re-released that game. My point is the only difference between the PC and the 360 game is the PC let you do native 4K. But everything else, the textures, all that's the same. That's what this feels like. It feels like while they have updated it, it still feels like a 360 game, just in native 4K.
Gotcha.
Which I think is fine because it's really kind of keeping the spirit of the game, which is fine. But then it looks a little nicer, right?
I wouldn't have been mad if they full on remade these. But
cost more money and time, so
yeah, I'm 100%. This is what I've always wanted. I wanted these three games because this is one of my favorite franchises. I wanted these three games native 4K. I didn't really care if they touched anything else. They decided to do that. I think overall, again, I haven't really played 2 or 3. I booted up 3 on my PC. I'm playing, by the way, I own it on PC and Series X. I'm playing on Series X. The reason I chose Series X over PC is PC, to get higher frame rates at native 4K, you have to turn off the Now I'm forgetting it. Not anti-aliasing. The VRR basically, and so I'm seeing tearing, and I'm like, no, I'll just play it on my Xbox. This is dumb. You can lock it on PC at 60 frames per second. My point is that it takes away the benefit of playing on PC. Like when I turned off the screen tearing or locked it where it wouldn't have screen tearing, or I'm sorry, unlocked it, I was getting. Oh, I probably would have gone higher, but my monitor only does 144 hertz. It was doing the full
only
4. So
humble brag.
The benefits there is, yeah, I could have gotten way more frames per second, but I'm having to deal with screen tearing. 60 frames per second is fine. So I decided to go ahead and play Xbox Series X, 60 frames per second, native 4K. So it runs good, looks decent. It looks good compared to the old versions, but I'm saying decent compared to like normal games. And then it plays pretty good. And it's just, if you're into the franchise, it's nice nostalgia. If you've never played the franchise, this is your best. This is your best time to jump in. I mean,
easiest for
it's gonna
sure.
feel dated because you don't have that nostalgia, and so some of the voice acting and dialogue and character animations, all that stuff's dated. That's the only bad thing. But as long as you go into it knowing, hey, this is an old game, and they didn't remake it, then you'll be fine.
Yeah, the issue I always had with the first Mass Effect, the reason why I couldn't keep playing it past the first few hours was the combat. Now I understand when it's a full RPG, I get it, where there's like hit percentages and evade percentages from the enemy. All I get that, but they let you actually aim down the sights, and you're actually aiming, and you pull the trigger, and then it just goes like whoop, like off to the side. So after a while, that does start to get really annoying. It's like either make this a game where my aiming makes a difference or don't, but stop making me aim if my aim is nothing. So I really wanted it just to be like, pick which enemy you want to target, and then here's your percentage of hitting them or not, and then hit attack, and then go. Like that, I can handle the RPG piece, but to me, it felt very misleading that I felt like I was aiming and then nothing was happening. It would be very frustrating. So
I wonder if they just kind of threw that out there to kind of cover their behinds, because like that was that their first third-person shooter style game? Because before that,
no, that's the thing. People actually think that they were trying to create a shooter. I'm saying I don't think they were.
Okay.
I think the whole,
but they hadn't made one before. That's what
you're and shooting. Right. I think that's to increase your percentages, but it doesn't dictate whether you actually hit the target and then hit it at a high level.
Right.
It's the same thing with Knights of the Old Republic. Now, granted, Knights of the Old Republic's not a shooter, but you do shoot guns in it, and you could be standing right next to the next character, do the attack with your pistol, and he'll literally go boop.
Yeah, but I don't. That, which is annoying, but it kind of feels, because I don't think in Coder. Now, remember if I'm wrong.
No, you don't
aim, right? Okay.
I'm just talking about the positioning of your character.
Yeah.
I just meant more how it feels. Like, because I remember feeling like people. I remember like when I actually finally got to play Mass Effect. I remember people saying 2 feels much better as far as like the actual way it controls.
It does everything better. It does the shooting better. It does the
what I was trying to get at
better.
Was like maybe they just like, since that was kind of like potentially their first outing into the third-person shooter genre, that they just were bad at it at first, and that's why the first one they were like, oh no, it's more like an RPG, so that's why the shooting's just kind of not like really like a typical it's like, or you guys just hadn't really like, you know what I mean? Like
I don't know. So I really think they created the game they wanted, just because of my experience with past BioWare. I think Mass Effect 2 was because they were like, they got a lot of like pushback on how it played. And that's probably when they're like, okay, then we need to bring guys in and we need to make a shooter.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I think that works just fine, because like just have the shooting be fun, and then if you want to tack on like, you know, abilities and things like that, and kind of give it that RPG, you know, touch, that kind of additional stats and like, you know, a bit, then that's fine. So
I think what it evolved into, especially with Andromeda, is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like I let Coder be Coder. Let Mass Effect be Mass Effect. So I think the original Mass Effect was trying to be like a lot like Coder, and that's why it was RPG heavy. And then once they realized people don't like that. Not for that game. They're fine with it in Knights of the Old Republic, but not in a shooter type game. That's when I think they finally found their identity and were like, we're going to make this an RPG. It's going to be a BioWare game or franchise, but we're now going to full on go into shooter mode.
Good news for me to hear that the first game has adjusted the combat mechanics, because I really want to get through this whole series. I want to play it because I still haven't completed it. It's been spoiled for me a million times, because who hasn't talked about Mass Effect Online? But I'm still interested in making some of those decisions myself, and I want to experience it for myself. But that first, and I refuse to play too much of the second and third games, and this is my own fault. I understand it's my own issue. I don't want to go out of order. Like, I want to finish the first game before I dive into 2 and 3.
Makes sense.
I don't want to just watch a summary of the first game. I want to play all, and so now hearing that the first game perhaps plays a little more like
it plays better.
I agree with Derek though. I remember liking story-wise and like how it plays out and sort of the intrigue and the mystery. I remember liking the first one the most.
The setup is great. I was always intrigued by the setup, but then once I got into combat, I was like,
3 is actually my favorite of the trilogy. It's my favorite, but 1 has to me the best villain, best story, best mystery. The reason I like 3 is I liked... Again, I'm not going to get into this because anybody who's watched our shows knows how I feel about it. I get really mad when people are like, the ending to 3 sucked. The ending is 3. The entire fucking game is the ending. Like, it concludes all the stories of all the characters
colors
that you loved for the
colors and the choices and the bluff.
So I get
listen,
really annoyed with that.
We've been joined by another Mass Effect fan. Kyle is here. Kyle, what are your feelings so far? Jumping in, hearing us talk about Mass Effect.
Yeah, sorry, the Reapers got into my computer system over here, and I was having a hard time getting in here. I agree. I think number 1's the best in terms of story and villain and everything like that. It's a more personal story on the backdrop of a much bigger issue. Personal story is hey, Saren sucks, and I'm gonna, chase him across the whole galaxy and cap him, and there's something really cool about that being the main focus of the story. And you're always one step behind them without going into too much spoilers. But like when you show up somewhere, he's already been there and he's already totally screwed up everything, or he's totally had some kind of influence in one of the major players in every world. And it's you always feel like he's a smarter character than you are. So when you get to the end, it feels good because there's so many ways that whole entire that fight can go, or not fight, for that matter. So that's the cool thing about this game is there's just so many different branching paths, to take whenever communicating with people or choosing action over conversation.
Yeah, the choices they present you with are so cool. And what a cool introduction to a new world, right? New IP. Like, not every company can nail a new IP like BioWare.
No, the world building in this game is some of the best world building in any video game ever. You could sit there for hours in the codex, and by the way, they read those to you. I don't know if that was in the original or not. Do they always read them to you? Like when you hit a codex, like is there an audio file? That's new and that's amazing because you can sit there and appreciate all the lore thrown at you without having to read like dialogue, just essays of like why this planet is green.
Can you minimize the codex screen and do stuff while listening?
You can't, no. So make a sandwich and turn it into, a food break. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Well, listen, are you liking the changes to combat? I know I saw that you had been playing it for a few hours at this point. Are you liking the changes to combat?
I'm like 15 hours in, and I'm telling you, if you go back and try and play Mass Effect now, like the original Mass Effect, it's kind of it's a bummer to play, like it just you'll be shooting at somebody and the I guess the invisible rolling is going on in the background, so like sometimes you're hitting the people, sometimes you're not. Headshots mean something now, hitting people by aiming correctly, it means something now. It feels like a shooter now, it's just there's some old it kind of feels clunky and a little too weighty, but like in general it is a much lower barrier to entry to jump in to play this game than it ever has been before. Nice. Because as much as I like one, like it's just the mechanics in that game kind of hold it back. Not because I thought they were bad. I think some people have an opinion that they're overly RPG. That's not my problem at all. They're just aged. They're just old now.
Yeah.
At the time,
I heard it was one of the tougher ones to replay of the 3.
It is. Yeah.
It's a little easier now, but like I said, it feels like a generic shooter. But I'm okay with it. I would rather play a generic shooter and enjoy the story than try to go back and play I have trouble going back and playing Coder now, and that's one of my
I
favorite.
can't. That's one, dude. I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt. I'm a Star Wars guy. I love that game, and I can't go back and play that game.
Hold
I
on,
think it's
Kyle. You like Star Wars?
You like Star Wars, Kyle?
I actually thought that's why we were here tonight. I didn't know we were talking about Mass Effect.
Tim lured me in with something about Star Wars.
Yeah, so I mean, it's impossible for me to go back and play Core. Even Jade Empire, it's just like old BioWare games are so hard to go back and play. Like I don't know where I'm going half the times. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like it's very directionless. Which I'm like, we used to play games like this back then. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And this game can kind of feel like that sometimes, because sometimes you just kind of have to guess where a side mission is. Like it's like, it's in this solar system. And you have to find that solar system within, within the galaxy, and then find the planet and make sure that it's landable. And once you land there, then you have to find it on the planet. Like there's still some hills to get over in terms of like.
I was gonna say even the levels, like even if I'm not doing a side mission, just wanna need direction on a main mission.
Mm-hmm.
All the levels, like the areas look the same. So yeah. I will admit, I have no problem saying this. I have terrible sense of direction, whether it's in person or in video game. And so I'll be like, dude, this map, I don't know. Where do you want me to go? And I'll just be running in circles, and then I'll realize I missed like this door to the left that leads to a new area or something.
Yeah.
And it's happened a few times. Not a big deal. It's more me, but also I would say the game, everything looks samey.
It does.
So they're obviously reusing assets and stuff like that, and so it doesn't like point you in a direction and say must go here. Now if you go and check like the story mission, it'll tell you need to head back to cargo bay, blah blah blah, to report to this guy, and I'll be like, oh well, let me go look on the map. Well, there's cargo bay. Okay, I'm pretty far away from it. Let me run. Sure. So that type of stuff. But like we're used to games now just going, no, literally go this way, and that type of stuff, and point us into the direction or something.
Right.
That's
it's funny to say that that's aged now, because really what we have now is a bunch of hand holding in video games. But it keeps the pacing, in my opinion. So like sometimes when I have to like stop. Same. So when I have to stop and like pull up a map and go, where am I on this map? Okay, how do I get there? It kind of breaks my pacing a little bit. And I'm telling you, the Citadel is a really good example of like a very confusing hub area. Just so many different elevators that go to different places. I know where everything is now, especially on like, a playthrough so many years later and actually spending a lot of time there. But like at the start, I'm like, do I have to to get to the financial district, do I have to take a car there, or can I walk there? Oh, I can walk there. Okay. Oh, but I have to take an elevator to get to the tower. It's very, convoluted a little bit, but you'll get there.
To the CSEC Academy, and I couldn't find it for a little while.
Yeah, it's on the lower level elevator, and it's hard to figure out where some of that stuff is, but like again, you're there so often, it's going to become like second nature to you.
Yeah, and once I went there once, I was like, oh, I remember now. Okay, I'm good.
Feels like a 15-year-old game because it is, or however old it is, But
what's interesting though is even back then, I remember feeling like more than any other game of its kind that had come out, any other kind of RPG, grand adventure, the world didn't feel empty. So I remember playing other games where there was like hardly any other characters except for really important NPCs, because they couldn't waste any processing power on having NPCs be present walking around. I don't know if maybe now it feels empty compared to modern games. I'm sure it does, but I remember back in the day when I played Mass Effect for the first time, I was like, whoa, this world feels full and occupied, and at least compared to other games. I don't know if it still feels that way.
I'm still wowed by the Citadel. When I'm on there, I'm like, wow, it is populated, and it's got lots of side missions, and you can hack terminals, and they have side missions. I feel like it's very lively, and there are things going on there. You return back after a main mission, there's more things to do, So I think it's even all these years later, I feel like it was still pretty impressive to me, at least.
I mean, it's no Man's Sky, but it's pretty good.
That very vibrant universe. Yeah.
I think that's why, like, when it comes to games that the setting is space, and like you take the Mass Effect series as a whole, and it's like it doesn't really feel like you're traveling through space. It kind of just feels like I'm teleporting to different areas. Mm-hmm. And I know that's asking a lot for back then, for them to build something that was even sort of pseudo No Man's Sky ish, but I don't know. It felt so disconnected to me.
You could even give me like a gummy ship, like from Kingdom Hearts, you know, like just
Yes,
let me fly there like in an arcade
Yeah.
type thing. I mean, that might
But
be
like,
kind of fun.
yeah, I mean, it again. The game does have some pretty gorgeous vistas on certain planets. Like you look in the back and you're like, "Whoa, this is crazy." Especially the third one, because the third one I think overall probably looks the best.
Hmm.
I would say, and there's definitely some nice environments. Although certain areas where you're like Derek was saying, when you're actually in combat and you're trying to figure out how to get around, it does look samey. There's some pretty cool looking planets, but it all just felt so disconnected to me. It's like I'm in space. I want to like go, even if it's like I don't know. It just felt disconnected to me. But
yeah,
it's a lot of loading screens that kind of connect a bunch of different worlds. Yeah, I will say in the first area on Eden Prime or whatever, the very first mission. I don't know if y'all remember this, but in the original Mass Effect, the entire sky is like orange or red. But you can't see anything. Now it's a real actual sky, like with a planet in the back. It looks really good. So they've done a lot to upgrade it. But by the time that you're done with that level, because of what's going on in that planet, it's very dystopian looking, like the sky. So it's like you're kind of on the planet as it's being ripped apart, and like you can see it being reflected in the background. That was never in the first game, So they've added a lot of bells and whistles in terms of like still backdrops, that change as you progress through levels that are just for me, I'm like, wow, it did not. I know for a fact it didn't used to look like this. This looks
no, the lighting, they definitely mess with the lighting in several, well, I'm going to say all areas, but
I would say so.
Yeah. I would say, in fact, I was watching like some YouTubers complaining about that. They're like, it's messing with the tone. I'm like, shut up.
I know.
I needed to look muddled and gross.
It looks so much better. Just, there was I don't remember where I was. I don't remember what planet, but I remember I was like looking and I was like, I know it did not look like that in the original. Yeah, it just looks the actual background and the lighting looks next gen or current gen, I should say.
Yeah.
Whereas, some of the other parts of the game don't, but overall you could tell they really touched that up.
Nice. Now, Derek and Kyle, do you guys think do you see yourselves going through all 3 games, or are you just kind of trying out to see the differences?
Yeah,
I'm fully into 1. I'm sure I'm 100% going to beat 1. Yeah. I just beat all 3 of these, not last year, but probably the year before or something. I don't remember. And I just finished Mass Effect 3 because I had started it and finished it last year, I think late last year. So
yeah,
I don't know about 2 and 3, but for sure 1 I will. The big thing is Biomutant. Like, if I really fall for Biomutant and I want to finish my second playthrough of Resident Evil 8, I doubt I'll get through the entire trilogy. But we'll see. I'm really playing Mass Effect, the original, more than I thought. Like, I'm 7 hours in, and I'm not like,
easy to lose yourself in that game. It really is.
Yeah, I'm not staring at the clock going, how long have I been playing this? Is it going to be over soon? I'm just playing it, and then I look at it, and I'm like, I've been playing for 7 hours? Man. And I was busy all weekend, so it's not like I had a lot of time to game. So the entire time I was gaming, since this game's come out, it's only been me playing Mass Effect.
I'm 1,000% gonna play through all 3 of them again. I played all of them twice whenever each first came out, so like that perspective year, and it's one of my favorite series of all time, and I'm surprised I've never gone back and played all 3 of them again, like Derek just did. So this is my first time replaying them since they came out, and like I think I made a post about this in the group where I was just like, I'm playing this game so methodically now because we're however many years removed since this game came out that I just play games differently now. I'm hitting side missions I've never seen before. I'm hitting story beats that I don't remember. It's like I'm playing this game all over again for the first time. I'm totally sucked in, and I can't wait for 2 and 3.
I have no problem admitting when Mass Effect released, I bought it day 1, and I played it, and I was a complete noob. And I played it, and I got stuck on, what is it, Lady Benzia or whatever, I forgot her name. I just actually beat her tonight or today. But I got stuck on her, and I don't know how far I was in. I was probably 5-6 hours in or whatever, and I left that game for like a year or something, and I was so frustrated because I'm a BioWare fan, and it was all because I sucked at the game. It was completely, I didn't understand how to level up correctly. I didn't understand what the weapons were, the leveling, all that. It's not complicated now. That's my point in sharing this. Is now I go in there and I'm like, dude, you are so dumb. Like, this is so easy. This isn't even hard. And now I'm just like you can die, by the way, pretty easily in this game, even when I have like good gear. The AI is not always the brightest. My characters are pretty stupid, but overall, I'm way better at this game than I was when it first came out.
I feel the same way.
I had to put it on easy, and I still suck. Now I can play it on normal.
Yeah,
you graduated.
Nice.
You've matured.
Nice. Yeah, well, I actually do have it downloaded now since Derek got it on Xbox. Since it is technically a PS4 and Xbox One release along with PC. I don't think it's officially PS5 and Series X.
It's got like extra bells and whistles, like I think. Doesn't it run it like at?
It is.
It
is.
120
I mean, on
Xbox?
the Xbox like case, it says Series X. It's got the Series X upgrade, so it's a Series X game.
Okay.
And it is a PS5 game because PS5 can't do 120 frames.
No, but it can lock at 60.
But it does the native 4K at 60 frames per second.
Gotcha. All right. I mean, that is a little confusing because if I'm looking on their website and on the Wikipedia, it officially, put that in quotes because who knows, officially released for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It didn't officially release for Series X or PS5, but whatever.
That's how I remember it as well. And then like last week or the week before, they were like, "Hey, here's PS5 and Xbox Series X specifications," but there's no way to buy the box of those. Right. Consoles,
so the upgrade is there. It's just being sold as last gen. So
exactly. Yep.
Which I don't really understand because
I don't either.
Because the PS4 and Xbox One can't run the game. I think PS4 Pro can run it at native 4K at 30 frames per second. So there is an upgrade.
There is an upgrade, yeah.
To the Series X and PS5. So I don't understand why you wouldn't sell it that way. But
maybe the boxes were already made. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? All right. Well, cool. This is an exciting one because I've got it downloaded. I am going to try it with the hopes of finally allowing the lore and universe that really intrigued me to match up with at least. All I'm asking for is like decent to good gameplay, and it sounds like I'll get that. So I'm excited for that. So
one last thing, Derek is right.
You didn't invest in Dragon Age Inquisition. You're just a BioWare hater, and that's
I mean, really, what this whole conversation chalks up to is that Dragon Age is better than Mass Effect. So
I don't know. Yeah, swords and shields versus space. I don't know. Yeah, it's a hard one. Derek is right though. Mass Effect 3 is wonderful, and the ending is perfect. So.
Kyle, did you like Andromeda? Was that a game?
I loved Andromeda. I thought it was great. Definitely a different flavor of like tone, but like I think it was a very good evolution of the whole series.
I thought that was really fun.
It's wonderful. I hope whatever happens next in this series, like they acknowledge. I hope they just don't forget about Andromeda because I think.
Unfortunately, I think they will. And if for people that really dove into the game like I did 3 playthroughs of it. And I pretty much did almost everything. They have a lot of mystery to that game, and the characters actually do have heart, and they're not perfect. They're not. The original trilogy does nail characters and stuff like that better, but
they're not my favorite. But they're great characters.
But there's good characters. There's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of story, and the game leaves you in cliffhangers where it's like, I want more. And when I found out everybody hated the game, I'm like, we're not gonna get more. And this really disappoints me.
The teaser that was it Liara that was in the teaser?
Yeah, that was Liara for sure.
So they're clearly going to be feeding off of the original trilogy, but
her species lives like thousands of years though, so
right.
So but that. She could probably still be alive, maybe.
I think it would make sense to maybe sort of grab, because like Derek said, because I haven't played Andromeda, like grabbing some of those mysteries and somehow, because I mean, it's just different galaxies, right? So you could have like this whole story spanning across different galaxies and things being connected, you know what I mean? So.
Well, I know Andromeda happens because of what happened in 3, because of the fallout of things that are happening.
Because of like.
So there are references to it, but it's kind of like, hey, we're turning the page. It's a new.
Well, it's like 1,000 years in the future because of the space travel or something. But time's relative, so they could there's a lot of ways they could loop it on itself because of relativity.
I liked it a lot, man. I really had a lot of fun. And that was a game that came out during one of the craziest games of this generation in 2017, and it was still a notable, enjoyable game for me, even though I was competing with Mario Odyssey and Zelda Breath of the Wild and Horizon and all these games that came out. That game still stood out to me as a really fun one. So that says something, I think. So
it does.
All right. Well, let's talk also about. I haven't played much more of this, but Dan, I think you finished Returnal. And
I did.
Just curious.
Get on my level, noobs.
Just curious, real quick, if you want to give us any kind of overall thoughts on the game. I know there's some major spoilery things, so don't spoil it. But
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think it's a really fun game. I the way it plays is really fun. It definitely harkens to Housemarque's sort of like what their flavor. They're kind of like bullet hell, but it's a third person shooter, so it's just like a really cool mix of what they've done with their arcade games in the past, mixing it with like a traditional third person shooter. The roguelike element is whatever. I mean, I think for me it kind of like works with what the story is doing. I think it fits into that really well and it makes sense and it's cool. But like I honestly would have just preferred this being a regular third person shooter and then like when you die you
points along the way.
When you die you go back, but like let me carry my stuff over. Like I don't like losing the stuff. I think that's annoying.
That's where
I know that's what
me.
And I know
that's why I kept my guns and stuff like that. And I know you can keep some stuff. I don't know. I didn't.
It's a legitimate.
Yeah. There are certain permanent upgrades, and it's kind of like with me playing Resident Evil. So I started my second playthrough of Resident Evil Village, and it's like a whole different experience because like you're carrying stuff over and you get like this currency to buy new, like this whole sort of like system where you're going through the game and like it's almost like they're basically telling you, hey, go back in and just have fun and just like buy all these things.
They open up this challenge list. You do these challenges, you get the CP points, and now you can unlock infinite ammo and all kinds of fun stuff.
So for me, that's I guess just as far as like my style of game, like how I would prefer this Returnal to sort of play out, but that's just not what it is. It's a roguelite. That's what they chose. It's fine.
Well, you played it enough to finish it, so even though you didn't like that, you finished it.
The story is really intriguing. Again, the vibes, just the different biomes or whatever you want to call them. Especially the last one, I was not expecting that. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
The designs are really cool. I've only made it to the third one.
Okay.
And because of Resident Evil Village, I kind of totally stepped away from Returnal for the moment. I do plan on getting back to it.
I know right now there's been reports they have acknowledged, people on the internet complaining like, hey, can we get an autosave feature? So like they're looking into it, which is hilarious when you go into the comments. By the way, the typical just assholes that want to just be like, oh, you're not a real gamer unless blah, blah, blah. It's like the Sekiro argument of like, should there be an easy mode or not? It's just like there's always just that person out there. It's just like, you're not a real gamer, or like if you don't have the time to do a full playthrough of Returnal, you're not a real gamer. Don't buy the game. It's like, or just let people do what they want to do. Just have the feature there. How is that hurting you? Don't use the feature if you don't want to. If you're bothered by it, like I don't understand. But yeah, I think
there are counter arguments because I am one of those that doesn't want, and I couldn't even beat Sekiro. I'm at the boss, like
I just want to throw out there that I did, so obviously I'm the real gamer out of the three.
Oh, you give me time, I'll destroy the two I'm fighting. My point is that I never wanted an easy mode for that because the entire point of the game is to beat the game on the level that
I was using that just as an example, not like literally.
I know. I'm just saying there's counter sets, so you could even apply that to Returnal. Like the developers could say, okay, we can do a checkpoint. Like I would be in favor of that. You're not going to get an argument from me. I'd be like, okay, I'll actually play Returnal now. But I'm saying if their whole point is they're like, well, this was our vision. Like we wanted this to be difficult. We wanted you to lose and start over. We want you to go after that perfect run. And we're taking that away whenever we do here. Let's make the masses happy. It's up to them if they feel comfortable doing that. Just like if, what was it, From Software, whoever made Sekiro was like, you know what, we're fine with an easy mode. I'm not going to fight them. But I don't like when like people try to pressure the developers. It's their vision. If they want to make a difficult game and that's the point of the game, let the developers make it that way. That's my thing.
So my argument though is like, so I'm coming at it from the perspective of what if a person just doesn't have, because like let's say you're not like amazing at the game, but you're not bad at it, and you're just kind of going through it slowly, and you're trying to be strategic because you're trying not to die, right? So you don't have to start back over. So I think my playthrough where I actually did like beat the game because I had the system, I had my PS5 on sleep mode, so then I went back at it the next day, and that's when I beat it. I think altogether, I don't know, maybe around 8 hours.
Oof.
I don't.
One run.
Not many people have that many hours.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it doesn't really, it doesn't affect
So.
the loop. Like when you die, you still start at the end. People are just asking to have a save, so I don't have to sit down for 8 hours straight.
Right, that's what I mean. Like for me, it's just more the perspective of time of like if I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah.
Like I want to, well, sure, I could put the system on sleep mode, but I guess for some people it's like.
No, I'm not putting my PS5 on sleep.
Yeah, I've heard too many horror stories.
Yeah, mine has bricked,
but it's like if
mine has died a few times doing
if you turn off the system, or you know what, if the game crashes, what if the game crashes? You're having
updates. That was a problem too. It updated in a lot of people's runs. You know,
I had my best run. Not saying it was amazing. My best run glitched. Like I had the highest level stuff I'd ever had, and I couldn't get out of the room.
Yep.
Like both doors locked. It glitched.
Yeah. That happened to my friend Brandon. Me and Brandon were going back and forth. He's like, "How far did you get?" He was actually like ahead of me like for a good while, and then like I just beat the game because he wasn't playing it that day, and I kind of rubbed it in his face a little bit.
Nice.
Really?
But yeah, he got stuck in rooms several times, and it just completely ruined that one playthrough. He had to start over.
I think they've patched that, and then there was a patch that. I think that patch messed some things up, so they had to patch that too.
Right.
But I think that's fixed now. Because that happened to me once early on. But I don't think that's an issue anymore. I do think I understand I feel like there's complexity with checkpoints that we don't quite get because the whole thing's procedurally generated.
I think so too. Yeah.
And there's something to do with when you walk through the doors and the way that the levels continue to generate beyond you and what doors are available to you. I just think there's more to it than simply saying, just let it load here if I have to turn my system off or whatever like that. Sure. I would also like that, but
in a perfect world, that's what we're asking for. But you're right, something's stopping them from just like plugging that in real quick.
Or maybe
I'm sure there's some kind of loopholes that certain gamers could find where if they keep resetting it at a certain time, they can keep starting at that check. Like it's possible that it takes away the what they're trying to create with this. You have to make decisions on the fly on that run, and if you mess it up, we don't want you to be able to just keep self-correcting a little bit.
If you're able to like roll back a checkpoint or whatever and see if is this room better for me, or hey, maybe the random drop of a gun will be better for me this time. I can see people cheesing that for sure.
And I get that that's not for everybody. I understand that.
Yeah, and I'm with Derek. Like, let developers make the games they want to make, and like you can either play it or you can screw off. That's kind of my opinion on that. But when I hear people talk about 8-hour runs for a game and turning it on a very faulty sleep mode in between your runs, I'm just like, this isn't really a fix here. This isn't really working for me.
I don't think the run has to take 8 hours when it's all said and done, but I think Dan.
I hear a lot of people are getting stuck in, not stuck, but are in runs that long though.
But I think Dan, by the end, you weren't dying and resetting and then fast forwarding through. You were like, you would beat a boss, go through the whole next level, weren't you just kind of like having a lot of success? So that's different. Like for example, now that I've beaten the second boss, I can get to the third area within a couple of rooms in the first level now because I have there's a new way to traverse this area that now I can jump up to a new level, and then it's essentially a backdoor into the third biome. You can skip the second one altogether, and so I think they introduce things like that to help you quickly get to the next areas.
But so say you get to that third biome, right, and you die, and then you're starting over. You do actually want to do that all over again, but you don't have to do the boss fights. The boss fights, once you beat them, you're good.
Unless you want to redo them, you can redo the second one at least.
Well, sure, you can. But what I'm trying to say is you want to go through the areas again so you can get all the upgrades again. Because if you just go straight to the third section, like you could probably maybe still survive, but it's going to be more challenging though because you don't have all the add-ons that you've gotten and bought and the upgrades and so on.
You'll miss the add-ons, but they'll give you a good gun right out of the gate. So you pick up that item that ups the proficiency to level 9 or above in area 3, and then they give you a chest with the random gun drop right away.
But your health is not going to be as maxed out because basically. So there's things that you lose.
But that's the roll of the dice because you could go through a run where you hit horrible rooms and you're actually coming through limping to that third area because you hit a bunch of tough rooms all the way there. So it really depends. It really depends on the run. But yeah, I love that game and I am gonna keep playing it. I don't know if I'll ever end up beating it or not. I'm not sure if I'll have the capacity to do that long of a run if that's what it's gonna take or what.
I believe in you, Tim. I believe.
Yeah, I can't even beat the first boss, but I love it. I think the game is wonderful.
Kyle, I also believe in you. I give you guys my energy. Here, take my energy.
Thanks. I need it because my own energy is not getting me through levels. So
thanks, buddy. All right, one other thing I wanted to quick talk about before we close out with Resident Evil Village. Kyle, you've played and finished Village, right?
All of it, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So before we get into that, I did want to just quickly call out that I've been rewatching. I finished rewatching Band of Brothers, one of the best series ever made. It still holds up after, I think it's almost 20 years old now. It's still fantastic. And so then I dove into The Pacific, which was, of course, the Pacific Theater of World War II. It was kind of their follow-up, made and produced by a lot of the same folks. And it just isn't as good. Like I'm about halfway through it, and here's what I think real quick. If you've ever watched it or are thinking about watching it, Band of Brothers did an amazing job of focusing on a wide selection of characters, and there were a few that stood out as my favorites and kind of like the main guys. But for the most part, every episode is focusing on, like, one episode's all about the Doc, and one episode is all about Nixon and his struggles. And there's all kinds of different episodes that they focus in on, or like the new guy. They focus one episode all on this guy named Albert Blythe, who's kind of this coward the whole time until the very end. And so the Pacific is really centered on one character, and he's not the most likable character. And I'm getting a little annoyed that they're so zoomed in on him. And maybe it'll change. Maybe that's just the first 4.5 episodes. But I feel like it's suffering because they do have a pretty large cast of characters, but they keep centering in on just him. And it's like, I don't know.
I really enjoy the Pacific, but it is a lesser thing than Band of Brothers.
Visually and all that stuff, it's amazing.
I mean, and if you really want to see some horrible stuff that was going on in the Pacific Theater, the show's gonna show you. That first episode.
Terrifying. All that jungle combat and
so scary. So scary.
The enemy would always attack during nighttime. It's just terrifying, man.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but
no, you're right.
Never changes.
There is a focus. Yeah, right. Yeah, there is a focus on more singular characters, maybe even just the one in Pacific, but it's still pretty good. I think you're gonna like how it all ends.
Still high quality. So. Yep. So anyway, just wanted to throw those out there. All right, let's talk about Resident Evil Village. If you don't want to hear anything about the story or the lore or anything with Resident Evil Village, you can shut this thing off right now because we'll talk about it because we've all finished it at this point. So if you don't want to find out the story or what happens to Rose or to Ethan or to everyone else involved, then get out of here. That's your last warning.
Out of respect for the creator Resident Evil Mikami, let's call the series what it actually is. It's Biohazard, okay?
Oh, sure.
That's Resident Evil 7, right? Resident Evil 7 Biohazard? Yeah.
Yes. It's Biohazard.
So, I'm pleasantly surprised in myself that I took the time to finish this game. I think, let me just start with that. That speaks to the quality of this game. That and you guys know this, and I know you're going to give me crap about it all the time. That's fine. I've just never been a huge fan of the series. I've always liked it in bits and pieces. I really liked 4. I did enjoy 7. Some of the other ones just haven't really done it for me. But I loved Resident Evil Village from start to finish. It's such a good game. And it's not one I recommend to everybody. There are some folks out there who they can't handle the violence or the spookies, and that's fine. But for anyone else, this is a fantastic game. And it's actually not even, other than one house, it's not the most scary game that's out there. But anyway. Absolutely loved it. Loved the way it ended. Before I finished it, everyone kept saying, I loved it. The ending got a little wacky, but I loved it. And I was like, what are you talking about? The whole game was wacky, and the ending was fantastic. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know what are you talking about?
Well, yeah.
But I understand that.
Well, they at least explain the ending, because I think I said last week on the show, I said I didn't want to spoil it, so I couldn't go into details. Now I can. Here's one of my issues. What's his name with the glasses?
Heisenberg.
His special ability is he can basically control metal.
He's like Magneto.
He's Magneto.
Magneto. Yet you fight him with a metal machine.
Well, they say it's a polycarbonate.
Yeah, there's a note there that says,
Yeah,
so
it's
still
non-metal. Even though by the end of that fight, he is literally throwing your non-metal machine.
Kind of
whatever,
that's kind of the problem with this series. And actually, there's that room so Miranda's lab right there at the end.
The lore room, you mean?
Yeah, the lore room. That's just like, here's the exposition.
The story room. Yeah.
That just ties all this crap together, and you just read all these notes. It's like, all right, come on, seriously.
And you find out how each of the 4 lords came to be. Like,
their books just happen to be there. Like,
in order.
I will say I liked all of that. I thought all those tie-ins were amazing. Could have loved it like if it was maybe presented
and
maybe in a cutscene or something.
It's like maybe sprinkled throughout the game a little
more.
Yeah,
but you walk into a room and they literally explain every mystery in like multiple memos, and you're like, that's super cool, but why couldn't you, like, I don't know, have Miranda like explaining that to you or something, you know?
And that's kind of the thing, because with this game, like, there's so much cool, like, visually there's a lot of really cool things happening, and there's really cool moments and interactions, but like I think so when I was watching the spoiler mode from Easy Allies, they had mentioned where the developers said that this game was supposed to be like a carousel of horror. It was supposed to feel like all this sort of like different styles of horror.
I felt that hard.
Which obviously there's the 4 sections, right? So obviously it's very different moods, very different vibes,
different genres of horror.
And that's cool, but it just felt like they didn't really spend enough time in each section. But then that kind of goes against, like, well, do you want the game to be 20 hours? It's like, I don't know, do I? Because 10 hours is... Right, so then it's
I
like,
think timing, it ended up being perfect, but I actually do agree with you. You spend a good amount of time in Lady D's, which I think that's the best.
The opening section is longest. Yeah.
But the other ones, like, for instance, again, I didn't try to spoil it last week, but the second house you go to, the scariest one, I don't want to be in there longer than I was.
Yeah, same. If that section was any longer, I probably would have had a heart attack.
So what was really cool about that was that it removes your items right away, because obviously the lights go out when you find that doll. The lights go out.
Yeah.
You know, she says a bunch of creepy stuff, and when you come
She's
to
really creepy. She nails her voice.
Yeah,
they nail the creepiness.
Oh yeah. So then your items are gone. So then I kind of, at first I thought, oh, I'm gonna have to. Maybe I'll find one pistol, but no, they don't give you weapons in that whole house. The whole idea is it's all very, very puzzle based, and then stay away from the blob baby. Like, those are really the two things you have to do.
Seriously, fuck that baby.
Oh my
seriously.
God. Yeah,
that thing.
That's the name of this episode.
Like, I hate in horror games when they take everything away from you that you can protect yourself. Like, it's just like, oh, you got to run. You just got to run. Like,
that freaked me out so bad.
I was literally just programmed to kill you. It's
at nighttime. I had headphones in. It was really dark. And as you're going down the hallway, you know you're getting towards the end because you've kind of gotten a lot of pieces in place. And then all of a sudden, it kind of pokes its head. It kind of slides its head out from around the thing and starts calling you daddy.
You could see its umbilical cord on the ground.
It's coming at you.
Comes into the darkness.
And I got eaten like right away. I did not think like, oh, I have to run. I thought it was a cutscene. Like, I was like, I can't fight this thing. What am I supposed to do?
You took my guns away.
and it right away like starts shoving you feet first into this giant mouth.
And he says yummy. He says yummy.
I didn't. Oh man, that's creepy. Yeah,
it's super. You literally, because it's first person, you seeing your body going inside its throat. It's disgusting.
No, I don't want that at all.
Terrifying. It's terrifying.
That part was genuinely some of the coolest scares.
Oh, man,
like
my hands were so sweaty when that was done. I was just like, this is messed up.
I was standing up like while like fumbling, trying to get the elevator to go up. Like, could you go up there? Go, you know, and it's like rushing towards you. It's just.
I want to say there's actually 6. You know, we talked about biomes a lot with Valheim. Dan, we talked about that before. We talked about biomes with Returnal.
Biomes is just the word now.
There's kind of 6 biomes, I guess you could say here. There's the snow, any kind of snowy setting, like the snowy village. Then you've got this giant kind of ornate castle, which is gorgeous. I loved the design of that place. It was so cool. And then you had the dollhouse, the creepy old dollhouse with the kind of the basement, the dungeon basement that was just so messed up. It had like a bunch of testing that was being done. I don't know. It was all messed up down there. Yeah. And then the third one was the kind of that river lakeside place that was all flooded and over it with the windmills and all that. So that was very unique. And then we had you weren't quite to Heisenberg's place yet. You had the strongholds. You had the castle with all the Lycans, and you had to fight big old Urias at the end, which was
it was like old ruins, right? Like that's ruins or something.
Really cool old castle ruins, which had a very cool werewolf vibe to the whole thing. It kind of gave me a very classical just like the castle gave me a very classical vampire feeling.
It was more run down.
Yeah. And then you get to the factory where everything's very mechanical, and you have these creepy these tech soldiers coming at you.
That whole area was horrifying. Like, you know, because
there's those 6 main areas, and I thought they just nailed the vibe of each one.
Yeah.
And I did this is just for me personally. I don't necessarily want to be scared for a 10, 11-hour game. I just don't. Like, I don't want to necessarily feel that anxious and scared. I like the idea of like give me moments where I'm like, oh, that was terrifying. So I didn't mind the dollhouse part when it's all said and done because they didn't do that the whole game. If that had been the whole game, I probably would have ducked out. I would have been done after a little bit.
Resident Evil 7 is definitely more straight up horror. Like there are way more scary parts and more tense parts in 7. Like 7 overall is a scarier game than this one.
I would say
for
so.
sure. For sure.
The only thing I would say is that the second area, that house is scarier than anything that I think saw.
The first 30% of that game of 7 is
this has a higher peak of scariness, but 7 had a more consistent level of scariness. Yeah, for sure. What I also liked is that by the end, this becomes a pretty straightforward action horror game. So it's not just jump scares and creepy creatures, but they equip you, at least on normal difficulty. That was I was playing on normal difficulty. They equip you with enough stuff to blast your way through everything, and you have to be careful. Like you can run out of bullets and get overrun, but they give you enough between mines and pipe bombs and crafting and all that stuff that you can take care of business. And so I was looking back at it, I think I only died a handful of times, maybe. Like one of them was an accident to the baby coming down the hallway like an idiot. I wasn't paying attention. And then the other ones were towards the end during I think the final boss fight. I died once because I had gotten too used to being overpowered with a character we'll talk about in a second. And then they give you control of your other character again. You're like, oh, I got my crappy guns again. Okay.
Because the new mechanic in this one as that they didn't have in 7 was sort of the blocking mechanic. So Ethan would which I mean, Ethan's hands, just his poor hands, right?
Yeah. Well, that was what I was going
the dude's hands just goes through the ringer.
The blocking
by the time I got to the end of the game, that was actually one of the things that I did appreciate, even if maybe other people would think it's tacked on or stupid. But if you played 7 and 8, Ethan goes through too much.
Yeah.
Like I get these games aren't grounded in reality, like reality, but they still try to live in some sort of reality. And he was taking too much from even at one point towards the end of the game. I'm like, this is ridiculous. He's a human being. He cannot go through this. This doesn't make sense.
Are you talking about? Okay, let's just go ahead and say it.
Yeah, but
You're talking about when she rips his heart out? Is that what you're talking about?
Just everything, that entire ending when he's getting thrown around in a tornado, all that stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But there's a reason for that, though.
Yeah, but
that's my point. You don't know that until they explain it to you and go,
right.
This is who Ethan is. So that's why I said I'm appreciated, because by the time I got to that, I was like, okay, you've gone too far.
And I thought that way in 7. Like he gets his arm cut off at the very beginning of 7, and you're like, "What? They just
they didn't explain
it. And they never explain it. Yeah, like it's just
I think
silly,
that's why they did it. Is they went hardcore and keep showing you Ethan getting tortured and going through terrible things, and then at the end of 8, they're like, "Hey, by the way, the whole time you were playing 7, the whole time you were playing 8, he was mold. He wasn't really alive."
Ethan died in the first half hour of that game.
Yeah,
they literally say that in this game. They're like, freaking Jack killed you.
Yeah,
Jack killed you. Like
exactly.
It's like,
she's laughing at him like, you an idiot? Of course he killed you.
Yeah. So like you're dead in that game, but then obviously you get molded or whatever, they inject you, and so that was pretty cool, and I did like that kind of tied in that stuff into 7, which again. That's what's cool about this game, because it's actually the first direct sequel to a previous game in the series.
And those stories do actually intertwine. You actually get even some answers about 7 from playing 8.
That's
pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah, I really liked the way that wrapped up. I also liked, the idea of their daughter being super special. Like, Heisenberg especially keeps talking about your daughter being special, and she's got regenerative capabilities. And I was like, she better, because I'm gathering pieces of her throughout this game.
She's got something going on.
Yeah. It was like baby's head, baby's legs. I was like, this is so messed up.
Yeah, I can't believe they went for that. Really, I'm like, this is dismembered kids.
when that moment when that happens, when the Duke is like, look at the flask, and Ethan breaks down, that felt like a genuine moment to me. I don't know if it did for you guys, but
more so than most Resident Evil moments have felt. That's for sure.
But so with Ethan, for me, I feel like Ethan emotionally is inconsistent throughout the game, and the way he delivers lines sometimes is kind of inconsistent.
Oh, for sure.
Because he's mold.
Because
that's their excuse. They're like,
it's the new nanomachines, you know.
No, but like, so there's a part where you kill one of the sisters, and he says he's like crazy witch or whatever, like something super dumb and corny.
Yeah.
And then you fight the werewolf dude with the hammer in the cave.
Yeah.
And what does he say? He like when you kill him, he's like, "Eat shit." I'm like, "Yeah, that's an appropriate response to what just happened." But like earlier, you're like, "Oh, crazy witch." It's like, what is this? A cartoon? Like, what is crazy witch? Like, what even is that? It's just I don't know. There's this like it's kind of all over the place. Like when he's going.
I kind of took that as being embracing some of the. I mean, this is maybe just the way that they want it to be as well. It still has some of that Resident Evil cheese,
sure,
for better or worse, but it didn't bother me.
There's a way to write that dialogue where it can be cheesy, but like it still works. And I feel like there was just
when
certain
Heisenberg
lines.
was talking to him over the loudspeaker in the factory, and then Ethan would yell back. Obviously, Heisenberg can't hear you. Yeah. So like he would like trash talk him back from the hallway, and I'm like, he can't hear you, dude.
Heisenberg is like, I'm gonna take your daughter, and I'm gonna go take care of Miranda, haha. And he's like, oh, I'd like to see you do your worst, or something along the lines. I'm like,
no, he says, I'd like to see you try, and I was like,
try.
Middle schooler, come back.
It's like, what do you?
There are a few moments like that, or the part when Heisenberg says something to him over loudspeaker, and then Ethan says something about, I don't need to hear your whole history. And it's like, he can't hear you.
Yeah, stop. Yeah.
So stupid.
He's going to tell you
this isn't a walkie-talkie. Like,
but listen, those are like small little nitpicks because I found the visuals and surprisingly the gameplay to be just so fun. I really, really enjoyed it. And it's interesting because it does not play like a run and gun. You don't play this like you'd play Far Cry or Call of Duty or something like that.
No.
You're supposed to be more purposeful with every shot, especially certain guns. Like when you get that Magnum gun. Shut up, Derek. When you get that Magnum gun, like you have to be really purposeful with those shots. I actually saved them until that Urias
6
fight.
Shots in the game, or something.
And it's it's really the only reason I beat Big Hammer Guy because I was running out of bullets when that fight started. I was like, oh crap, I'm not geared up for this fight. So I was spending a lot of time running and trying to get away from him. And then I just pulled out the Magnum, and thankfully I had just enough bullets to take him down because I was pretty much out even after collecting stuff in that area. Yeah. So anyway, I feel like this game does a good job of rewarding you in the right ways. You get some cool upgrades as you go. I skipped too many of the fish, so I didn't unlock all the meals because I just wasn't paying enough attention in certain spots to see there were fish right there. I was just trying to like.
You gotta dig around, Tim. You gotta dig around. The Metroidvania light aspects of Resident Evil. This is here, and I really appreciate them.
This is why it's not Metroidvania though, because you can't go back with new things. You can't revisit any areas.
Well, Metroidvania Light. Yeah. Metroidvania Light. Because I just mean that more in the sense of like there's areas to unlock essentially.
Well, that's why I was like, okay, I'm gonna look up one of these guides for where the food is. I'm gonna go unlock. It was like after the second house, I think. I was like, I'm gonna just see how many of the food I can get, and I already discovered at that point I was locked out of 2 areas already.
Fish. Yeah,
couldn't go back.
Already, like 2 fish that you missed, like near the castle, I imagine, or something.
Right? Yep. So, and that happened to me again. I wasn't paying attention. Finished the giant fish, Moreau, whatever his name is.
Fishman.
And I skipped. There was some fish there too that you had to go. But you had to kind of backtrack a little bit to look for him. I didn't do that. So anyway.
I was gonna say to Derek, because obviously Derek and I have our long history with the series. What was your overall sort of thoughts, feelings of Chris's implementation in the game and the story and like how that all played out?
Because
Chris is like he's an Origins guy. He's from the first Resident Evil, so he's been around.
I didn't mind him in the game. I didn't feel like he was in it enough, and then I felt like his part of the game was, I don't know. It was okay. I would have liked to. I didn't feel like they implemented him extremely well. Especially the way they set him up in the beginning.
Right.
Did I really think he was a bad guy? No, but they still had that pretty cool hook in the beginning, and then kind of the way they explain it, like, you really should have told Ethan. I should have. Yeah, you could have just told him.
I was gonna say it's a little frustrating looking back now that he could have just in the hallway been like, that wasn't your wife.
No reason not to tell him.
Well, so to add some perspective, because I've only played Resident Evil 6 once, so I do not remember it. So from Resident Evil 5 to 6, apparently Chris has gone through a bunch. He has had squads of people with him in those games, and apparently they all died in those games.
Yeah, he has like horrible PTSD and amnesia,
so yeah,
right?
I guess he's like in this mental headspace in this game because he keeps basically trying to be like, Ethan, like, back off, dude. Like, I don't want you involved. Because I guess he's like in this headspace where he's like, I need to take care of this myself. I don't want more people dying that don't need to die.
Which he does, he was kind of right. Yeah.
I think that's why he's so, obviously, and the story's written that way on purpose, because they don't want you to know in the beginning what's really happening. But like, he's being vague on purpose because, one, that's how they wrote the story and to keep the intrigue and suspense, but it's also because of what he's gone through in the past few years prior to what happens in this game. He's just like, I gotta take care of these things myself. I don't want more people dying that don't need to die. So it's like, that makes sense, but it's just, I don't know. It just feels
I like this
weird.
section where you get to control him. I like that whole sequence because his guns were awesome. I was actually killing Lycans real fast. I was like, dude, I want to play the whole game like this.
Being in the village on fire, like everything just looked cool. That whole part was awesome. I thought it was super rad.
Well, you unlock his guns to play your second playthrough with. So.
Right.
With the CP point or the
they're not expensive if I remember correctly.
I'm probably gonna dump a lot of hours into Mercenary. I really like Mercenary mode. I haven't played it on this one yet.
Mercenary with? Can you play it co-op?
It usually is in other games. I don't know if it is in this game.
I don't think it is, but I haven't actually hopped in though.
I haven't hopped in this one yet.
I was hoping it was because I would like to play it. I know I'd play it more with co-op because when
5 and 6 both had or 5 specifically had an online co-op.
That's what I liked about 5. I mean, I like the game, but I like the online.
I do too. I like 5 too. Yeah.
So to wrap up our talk on RE8 for now, or RE Village, sorry, I keep calling it RE8. For the most part, I look at this now as my favorite in the series, and I haven't played them all, obviously, but 4 was far and away my favorite, and I think this one has overtaken it, mainly because in the last year or so, I tried to go back and play 4 when it was re-released on something, and kind of ruined my nostalgia for it a little bit, just because it doesn't play as smoothly as, for some reason in my head, I remembered it.
Right, it doesn't,
It's not the smoothest of games. Now, that's a game they could do a remake of, and I would dive right in.
They are, right?
They've been rumoring that for the past, year and a half, so.
And give us some modern-day controls, and I'm all over it.
Well,
so this is my favorite in the series. Now, where would you guys put it, at least as of right now? I know it might change.
It's number 1 for me. But I liked Resident Evil 7 a lot, and I had it as number 1, so I would go Village and then 7.
Yeah, I like 7.
Then it changes up a little bit. Like, I'm not going to 6 next or 5 or anything like that. But
I can come off as a purist sometimes. I really like 2 and 3 and 1. Like, I like it when it's zombies and it's a simple story. It's not so but I really do like, I like 4 and 5 too, where it goes more international and the story gets zanier. Like, I like all of Resident Evil, but I think I like 1 and 2 the best. But this is up there in the top 2 or 3, I would say, easily.
Well, when we were talking
gameplay alone and setting alone, I think is so awesome.
Yeah. When we were talking about Mass Effect's story and how the scope was smaller and it was more personable, like the story, that's what I liked about it. That's actually why Resident Evil, the original, was my favorite for the longest time. Yeah. Because it's before you knew it was this big thing that they made it into. It was just a small city with a mansion and the mystery that you had no clue what the heck was going on. It's when they took the story and made it global and universal. That's when it
got a little nutty. By the time 6 is running around,
and I feel
it's more like the movies than actual Resident Evil video game. Yeah.
And I feel like after 6, what they wanted to do is kind of reboot the franchise, and I think they have some missteps, but this is why I like 7 and 8 a lot, is because they're like, yes, we're still in this big universe that you know about, but we're just going to bring it down, and we're just going to focus on Ethan and his family and his story, and then we're going to throw in, Chris and some characters that you know about, but they're no longer the main deal.
Well,
we're not focusing on the thing that they're locked into now.
Right.
So I would put 8 easily as my number 1. I already started a second playthrough, but I plan on beating it multiple times like I did 7. And then, it's not really close. I enjoyed playing it more than 7, and I really liked 7. So
7 was good and spooky, and it had good moments of gameplay as well. This one, just to me, other than a few small moments, it had so much good gameplay throughout, start to finish. It was a fun video game to play in addition to being
it has so many unlocks and upgrades too that will keep me coming back. Where 7 had it, but not even close.
Well, it's arcadey in all the right ways, where you want to play it again and get a better score this time, so you can take that score, turn it into money, buy cooler stuff.
Dan, what about you? Do you have this behind RE2 still?
No, yeah. Our Remake 2 is pretty much me perfection as far as the Resident Evil series. It's third person, which for me is always better than first person. I think it's actually written the way they wrote the remake part 2 is like the least cheesy out of all of them. I think it actually has a fairly dark and serious tone. Some of the lines maybe just because again they are trying to give homage to the original, so there's like slight cheese, but like it's actually pretty serious. Leon's a great character, Claire's a great character, the police station is just an awesome setting, and then you dive down through the sewers into the lab. It's very traditional Resident Evil, but I just think it's perfection. I think it's pretty much the best that Resident Evil can be.
Also, hats off to not going to like a secret umbrella lab.
Yeah, well, hold on. I'm so glad they didn't do that.
Hold on, I want to discuss the tie into the overall universe.
I like this though. This
super cool. Like in Miranda's lab, there's a note
before
there.
You do that, where would you rank this one?
It's top 3. I'd have to think about it. I haven't actually really thought about it in a ranking wise, but it's probably honestly top 3.
But it's up there. All right, nice.
Yeah, for sure. But in that lab where we mentioned how you just exposition Miranda lab, there's a note there, and the note is about Spencer. Spencer being the guy that invented the T-virus, right? And in that note, it's talking about how he hung out with Miranda and they, had conversations and so on and so forth. But like he didn't really mesh with her vision because her vision was to just revive one person, whereas he wanted to change the world. So then and then this also the Umbrella logo, which is really cool.
They pulled it from that old.
Yes, because it's supposed to represent the 4 houses, right?
Yeah.
But it looks like he thought it looked like an umbrella, so then he called the company Umbrella. But I just think that's really cool that he basically took kind of like his time with Miranda as sort of inspiration to event the virus that happens in those earlier games. So I thought that was really cool because that's the origins of that evil corporation.
And I like that a lot of these viruses and these things originated from something organic like mold or something like that. It kind of brings the sci-fi elements.
Which is where the mold originated from, was actually here. So the mold.
Well, and they talk about the parasite too, right? From 5. Am I wrong on that? I don't think they mention it by name, but they is the parasite that's in that, like it's direct.
Progenitor? Is it the progenitor virus?
Yeah, I actually think they do say it by name at some
point,
they
do. I think they do.
Yeah. So I loved all that stuff too. It was just like, some parasite broke out in Africa, and I'm like, that was maybe from this too. Like that's cool. It's also super cool stuff going on there.
Where do we all think it's gonna go overall though? Because the game ends right with either a flash forward or Rose ages quickly, but the end is Rose.
I never considered that she ages quickly ever.
There are theories where people are.
I like that a lot actually.
Age quickly because think about it.
You can't skip 6 to 8 years in Resident Evil because too much happens in Resident Evil lore.
I mean, in that moment, I mean, you can guess. I don't know, at least 16, but maybe she's early 20s. Like I don't know how. I can't tell how old she is there. Man. So it's like let's just say it's 16 years later because she's a baby in this game, and then they flash forward. Like Chris is like going to be in his mid 40s, early 50s. It's like you're missing all this opportunity of the next game having like all these.
I think she ages quick.
So I thought this was cool. I watched the YouTube video of the ending, and PC community had a mod where they could move the camera.
Yep.
So they froze the ending where she's in the Jeep with the guy after she gets onto him and stuff.
At the grave, Ethan's grave, because he dies in this game. Dies, quotes, air quotes.
They're driving and they get far away, and then the truck stops when a person is approaching the truck.
I saw that.
So they use the mod camera to zoom in, and it's Ethan.
It's his character model.
Yeah.
So
either they just put him there because they're like, okay, we just need to put something there. But a lot of times you don't do that, especially if you know anything.
Seems like a bit of an Easter
YouTube
egg.
Culture either. Yeah, it's not. Everyone knows that people are gonna dissect stuff.
Isn't it always the thing that if you don't see a character die on screen, he's not really dead?
Yeah, 100%.
So
You know,
that was a pretty big boom, but who knows? He's been through a lot.
He's made of mold. Yeah, he's been through a lot. Who's to say he can't, survive an explosion? So
yeah.
Maybe he's got new mold.
But he was ashing and falling apart already before the
same way that the other.
So in my mind, I get not to dwell on it. I dream of a Resident Evil like next one we're playing as her, and she's got like supernatural powers, and we're like,
I
truly much different game.
I do believe she's the next.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think it's DLC or do you think it's in the next? Do you think it's 9? Resident Evil 9 is going to be.
I didn't even think about DLC.
There will be DLC, but not with her.
Resident Evil 9.
You don't think with her? Okay. Yeah, you think she's the next big thing?
I think.
Give me superpowers. I want Resident Evil superpowers.
Yeah. What if the mold has sort of messed with his head, like kind of taken him over? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, Ethan is usually a pretty standard good guy name in most of these types of stories, but yeah, Ethan, bad guy. Who knows? Well, listen, if you can't tell, all of us really like this game. This game got good reviews for a reason, and I think anyone from the most diehard of Resident Evil fans, like you three definitely are, or to the very, very casual, sometimes even Resident Evil hater like myself, I loved it, man. It was a great game. It's probably it's tough to put another game over it so far this year that I can point to as definitively better this year. There are games that maybe I personally would be like, yeah, I'll spend more time with that one. But I don't know, man. Even objectively, it's hard for me not to be like, yeah, it's probably the best game so far this year. It's hard for me not to say that, and that's painful for me because I'm not
until that Final Fantasy VII remake DLC comes out, right, guys?
Totally.
I'm already telling you right now that does not qualify for game.
Oh, it qualifies. I'm burning this. I'm burning this to the ground unless it counts.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see how many extra content pieces they add. All right.
Like
that does it
for 45
us.
Minutes.
Thanks, Kyle, for joining in. Sorry you had some computer troubles, but
I appreciate you having me.
And Derek, thanks for staying awake. I kind of did that on purpose to do the Resident Evil at the end. I knew that might keep you awake at the end. So there you go.
Yeah, you're a piece of crap.
Yeah, I know. You're welcome. Hey, you guys have a great week. We'll talk to you later. See ya.